Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, many military assets headed toward Iran and many already in that area. What is going to happen next? Well, it could be any moment now because there are multiple reports that President Trump may move as early as the next 24 hours potentially against Iran. So what does that mean? What should he be targeting? Should he be targeting the nuclear facilities, the ballistic missile sites? What about also leaders of the regime? There are so many questions tonight, and the stakes could not be higher. It's unclear, of course, if you listen to President Trump, he is clearly trying to still push Iran to the table. He is still trying to get them to negotiate and to avert any military action. I give him a lot of credit because he has been trying over and over again. Meantime, on the Nancy Guthrie case, there are reports that the sheriff out there in Pima County has been coming out and saying that there may be accomplices. He can't rule anything out. He can't rule out that maybe Mexico. He can't rule out that maybe she is alive. He can't rule out that maybe it's somebody local. He can't rule out that maybe it is an individual or individuals responsible for this horrible, horrible kidnapping and disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. And President Trump made some comments about that, too, a little bit ago. And we'll be sure to play some of those as well. And also Zoran Mondani getting a lot of heat from a lot of different directions, including them in the Democratic Party. The Wall Street Journal, by the way, not a Democratic publication. I think they're pretty much down the middle on a lot of issues. But the Wall Street Journal coming out with an op-ed saying that Mondani is taking New York hostage by his pledge to increase property taxes by 9.5%. if the state won't give him tax increases on the wealthy or on corporations. So he is certainly trying to put the squeeze, and a lot of people are saying, is he nuts? This is truly cuckoo. And it comes at a time where he wants increases for migrants. You can't make it up. We're going to talk about that and a lot much more on The Rita Cosby Show. But first, here is President Trump just a little bit ago saying that he's still hoping that Iran will come to the table or else.
And but people like them both, you know, they're good people, and they like them both, and they've had some very good meetings. They've had some very interesting meetings having to do with, as you know, Iran is a hot spot right now, and they're meeting, and they have a good relationship with the representatives of Iran, and, you know, good talks are being had. It's proven to be, over the years, not easy to make a meaningful deal with Iran. We have to make a meaningful deal, otherwise bad things happen. But we have to make a meaningful deal. But they have a great relationship with the representatives of Iran. They have a great relationship with the other one that they're ruling.
Otherwise, bad things will happen, is what President Trump is saying. And here is what he had to say, because he said, you know what? You know Trump. He's right out there. He says, this is what I'm thinking, although he does certainly like the element of surprise. He also said the clock is clearly ticking for Iran.
And one of the keys to it was when we took those beautiful, magnificent, we just ordered 22 more of them, updated model. The B-2 bombers are incredible. I never understood the B-2 bomber. I'd watch, it's a wing. And I've never quite understood that, Johnny. I'd look at it, I'd say it was beautiful, but what does it do? It carries very big bombs. And it went into Iran, and it totally decimated the nuclear potential. And when it decimated that, all of a sudden we had peace in the Middle East, because there was a black cloud hanging over the Middle East. And if that wasn't done, that cloud would have been there. And countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like Qatar, countries like, nobody could have signed. You would have had that threat. You couldn't have had peace in the Middle East. So now we may have to take it a step further, or we may not. Maybe we're going to make a deal. You're going to be finding out over the next probably 10 days.
You know Trump. You'll know in the next 10 days. And it could be sooner, could be later. But clearly, Iran is getting nervous. And they're also doing drills now off Iran, between Iran and Russia. So that's an interesting partnership. No surprise there. Ted Cruz, however, senator, of course, from Texas, came out and he said, if this were to happen, if President Trump could push and precipitate the fall of the mullahs in Iran, the fall of the Ayatollah, and create regime change and create a free Iran, he says this would be one of the greatest moments in modern times. Take a listen to what Ted Cruz said.
It is entirely possible, Sean, that in the next 6 months, we will see the regimes fall in Iran, in Venezuela, and in Cuba. And we could also see governments replace them that want to be friends with the United States of America. Now, let me be clear. I'm not being Pollyannish about this. There are 1,000 things that can go wrong. But if that happens, this would be the most consequential geopolitical shift since the fall of the Berlin Wall, since America won the Cold War without firing a shot. I spoke with President Trump the day before yesterday, and we talked in particular about Iran. And I said, this moment, the regime is teetering. The Ayatollah is in his last days. And I said, do not let this opportunity pass. We have an opportunity. The Ayatollah routinely chants death to America. This is a regime that is the leading state sponsor of terrorism on the face of the planet. It is responsible for murdering hundreds of American servicemen and women. The Iranian regime has provided over 90% of the funding for Hamas and for Hezbollah. To see the mullahs toppled would be a tremendous advance for the people of Iran. It would be a tremendous advance for the Middle East. But most critically, it would be a massive improvement in the national security of the United States. I believe President Trump is providing the leadership that is necessary, and it's making our country a lot safer.
Can you imagine if Iran were to have a shift like that? That would be monumental. I agree with Ted Cruz. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Should Trump do it? What should he hit? And should he do it ASAP? There's supposedly a nice, full, clear moon this weekend, and then another chance next weekend. I would say it's going to happen one of the 2 weekends. That's my gut. Let's go to Al in Yonkers, line 3. Al, your thoughts tonight?
Yeah, hi, Rita. Thanks for taking my call. You know, the fundamentalists in Iran, since the Shah abdicated the throne in 1979, either due to the will not to fight any longer or advanced illness, the problems, the fundamentalists, the mullahs, the Khomeinis, they've always been a problem since then. But for the president to go in there right now, he really has to get a lot of perspective from maybe people from even without from not in the administration, past national security advisors who know the region. So I'd say there's pros and cons to go in, and there's no certainty that, it could cause a big problem in the Middle East. So I would definitely say the president has to do a lot of soul searching in the next few days if it's worth going in there. But it looks like we will because of the buildup there with the USS Gerald Ford. So it looks like it's a possibility.
Although, what's interesting? I think two things. One, I do believe that President Trump would love to have like a peaceful negotiation, a peaceful agreement. So I do think he pushes it all the way to the limit. And if they were to come to the table, he would say, okay, fine, everybody turn around. So I think part of, the peace through strength message that Reagan so eloquently did. And then I also think, Al, today was this Board of Peace meeting that took place in Washington, D.C., and there were dozens of world leaders there. It was really an extraordinary sort of union of all these people trying to refurbish. Gaza was the objective in the Middle East, for that mission. Yes. But darn well with the players that were there, many of them, by the way, Middle Eastern or in the neighborhood, they certainly, I'm sure, talked about what's going to happen with Iran. Not that President Trump would tell them, but I do think he would at least get some feel from them and their thoughts or their concerns or what they think. So I bet you there was a lot of brainstorming and listening today. Yes. Don't you think so? I don't think it's a coincidence it happened right now.
Definitely. But, I couldn't, say more than what I really believe. You really got to get a good perspective from people who had a lot of experience in national security advisors. Like, for instance, Carter, he had Zbigniew Brzezinski. I'm not pronouncing it right.
Yep, Brzezinski. Zbigniew Brzezinski, exactly, who passed away. Yep.
Exactly. He, was the last time when Carter had the failed rescue mission. His national security advisor wanted him to go in, but Carter opted to not continue. And then you had Brent Scowcroft with the Bushes. So you really want to get a perspective of somebody who knows the region, because once you go in there, it could be a real firestorm.
Yeah, 100%. You don't go in lightly. I absolutely agree. Al, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great points, Al. Thank you. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn. Go ahead, Robert. Your thoughts tonight on line 2.
Thanks for taking my call, Rita. So, the Board of Peace, the Vatican did not accept the invitation. Great Britain did not accept the invitation. France didn't accept the invitation. And, these places like Great Britain and France, very disappointing. It's in the New York Post that Great Britain is saying that they will not let the United States use their bases, their air bases, to help the United States. That is really, really a betrayal of Great Britain. They are no longer the greatest ally of the United States. When they refuse to let the United States use their base for airplanes, we're having the biggest buildup in the area since at least the Iraq War. This is outrageous, the betrayal. And, Great Britain, they have turned. They are not the same country of like World War II. They have turned. They've been Islamicized. And so anyway, the Board of Peace, well, hopefully he had some useful, suggestions from members of the Board of Peace that did show up. And, it's not just about Israel. You also have countries in the Gulf area like the United Arab Emirates, which are big friends of the United States, and they don't want Iran to be nuclear armed as well. Now, in the case of President Trump, on January 2nd, he posted on Truth Social, quote, "If Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go," unquote. That was President Trump. He made that post. And since then, you had about thousands, tens of thousands of Iranian citizens, members of Iran, people in Iran who were killed, butchered, the most horrific treatment they got. They slaughtered probably thousands, tens of thousands of them.
So, hey, Robert, hold on. So I hear what you're saying. So is your point what? He should have acted sooner? Is that what you're saying? Or shouldn't have said that? Or what do you think?
No, I'm not saying that. He's building up methodically. He's building up to have an overwhelming force in that area. And by the way, that was very, very provocative when I think it was Khomeini. He posted on X on Twitter. He posted that, we could take out your aircraft carriers. We have the hypersonic missiles. That is very, very provocative. That is very provocative. Iran, this is outrageous. They are an irrational country. They're fanatical. They're fanatical, meaning you can't reason with them. They believe, some of them, that if you get their 72 virgins, they're willing to die. They cannot have nuclear weapons. But also, from a humanitarian point of view, you cannot allow such horrific abuse of citizens. You have people demonstrating against the defaming Israel about Gaza. Meanwhile, you have an actual genocide in Iran where they killed thousands, tens of thousands of civilians who are protesting the horrific regime in Iran. And just so the question is now, how does President Trump go about taking out the regime? So that part, that requires skill.
So really quick, we have about a minute, Robert. What do you think? Do you think he needs to do a regime change? Does he need to do targeted strikes? Where are you seeing that he should handle that?
Well, I think he has, the Mossad is a very good intelligence agency. Also, the CIA. They need to know what buttons to push that would be enough to topple the regime. Every regime, they need certain things, electricity, financial aspects. The United States has a lot of weaponry, also economic weaponry, diplomatic weaponry, to take out the regime. But President Trump, he made a commitment. When Obama made the commitment, the line in the sand, President Trump on January 2nd, he said that if they violently kill protesters, the United States is going to come to the rescue. If he doesn't come to the rescue, he'll be the biggest betrayal since Jimmy Carter, Obama, the betrayals of Iranian citizens. Trump is not like that. I believe Trump will not abandon them, and he will figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah, and by the way, I agree. I agree that he's going to find a way. You could tell he's very troubled by what's happened with protesters. And you'll never see Trump sending pallets of cash in the middle of the night to Iran, which certainly emboldened them and emboldened their war machine. And that's exactly what Barack Obama did. Great points, Robert. Everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
It's been an interesting day. President Trump talking about the Nancy Guthrie case, talking about UFOs, talking about Iran, and a whole bunch more. And we're going to get to it all tonight here on the Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Ken in New Jersey. Go ahead, Ken, line 2, your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm kind of disturbed about how we seem to be going it alone with all these very risky military actions against Iran or some other countries. Where are the Brits? Where are the Germans? Where are the French? Where are the Italians? I mean, why don't they contribute? By the way,
Ken, great points. And in fact, I'll play after the break. You'll be stunned where the Brits are. They are running, scared for their lives because of Keir Starmer. So we'll talk about that. But I think also we are not really going at this alone. I think publicly, a lot of countries are saying you do it, but I think they're helping privately. And there's Israel.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Kansas City, Missouri, where 2 police officers are being credited with saving the life of a woman. The 2 officers jumped into a freezing lake to rescue a woman who was struggling and drowning in the deep waters. They were dispatched to a report of the woman drowning. And when they arrived on the scene, they found 2 people out of the water, including one person who was out deep in the lake, struggling and trying to stay afloat. So they immediately shed their gear. They entered the cold waters of the lake to rescue the woman. Thankfully, once they made their way to the deep lake waters and reached her, they were eventually able to pull her to safety. One of the officers can be seen swimming to the woman and helping her back shore. The officer who did it has been with the department there with the Kansas City Police for 26 years. And bravo, of course, for all the great work they all do protecting us, the men and women in blue. Well, Robert was talking about this very powerful point. He was saying, where are the other allies? So was Kent. And one of the points that Robert brought up was that United Kingdom, that Keir Starmer, I can't believe this, he came out and essentially said that they cannot use U.S. airbases, that they will not be allowed to stop there and use them for refueling or for anything if they are to do the U.S. an attack on Iran. So much for our great ally. All I kept thinking about is Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher. They're rolling over in their grave. What a disgrace. Keir Starmer is the current prime minister of England. And why do you think it is, you guys, that he came out very publicly and said they cannot use our air bases if they go after Iran? What does Keir Starmer want, nuclear Iran over there? What's his objective? Well, earlier today, John Catsimatidis and I spoke with Victoria Coates, former Deputy National Security Advisor, and John was asking about this. This is mind-blowing. Listen to this one.
I understand, and you tell us, because you probably know better than we do, that the UK has put in certain restrictions and certain bases on the United States on attacking Iran?
This is really a disgrace, John. It shows you how terrible the government of Keir Starmer is. And what Starmer is desperate to do is get back into the EU and get out of the special partnership with the United States. I have really applauded President Trump for making that relationship work, but the Truth Social post he put out last night was really important in this. He talks about that special relationship. He talks about how strong it has been, and he talks about how weak Keir Starmer is, particularly in terms of trying to give away Diego Garcia in the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean, give them to Mauritius, which is a Chinese ally. And the president's not going to stand for that. I think Keir Starmer is retaliating by trying to restrict what we can use. I think it's terrible. And I think the English people need to know that this has happened.
Well, that's why the American people have to know, too. That's why I brought it up. So just make it very clear. And this gentleman you're talking about is the current prime minister of United Kingdom. And he's of what background?
He's an international law aficionado. And that's why he's going off of an international court of justice ruling on this rather than British sovereign law.
Wow, that's amazing.
And he's ruling that the United States could not use certain British bases, which is horrible. Is this the first time since 1776?
Well, maybe
1812.
1812.
Right. Yeah, but in all seriousness, I think about my grandfather training for 6 months in Great Britain before D-Day. And the coordination that went on then and the sacrifices that were made on both sides. And I mean, Churchill would roll over in his grave to hear Keir Starmer try to limit Donald Trump's ability to attack Iran, a country that hates the United States, hates Israel, yes. But guess what they think about Europe? They hate Europe, too.
And Turkey did that to us during the Iraqi war. Where they said you could fly over Turkey. Let's make sure all the American people know the truth. You could fly over Turkey, and then the last minute they said you could fly over Turkey for Iraq, but you have to pay us, what was it, $24 billion?
Yeah, and they told us very last minute, too. You're right. Yeah. So we had to re-rack everything.
And Iran also hates the Brits. Isn't that right, Victoria?
Right. Oh, they do. But they hate all of Europe. Remember, they had a bomb attack planned in Paris. They've had terrorist attacks in Belgium, in Austria, fomented by the IRGC. Why do they have terrorists down in Australia? Because they hate the West. They want to undermine all of our allies. And Keir Starmer is not going to mollify them by picking a couple of bases and restricting us. He's just going to make the Americans mad and destroy our really strong defense partnership.
Really extraordinary. Can you believe this? That we're at this moment in 2026 where the UK is saying, the US, you can't use our air bases to go after an evil terrorist regime. What a wimp. What an utter wimp Keir Starmer is. That to me is just disgusting. It really is. My father was in the Polish Second Corps, British 8th Army, you guys. My parents met in England. Yeah, I mean, this is just preposterous. This special relationship and great relationship that the U.S. has with UK is one of the greatest, most special, extraordinary relationships in the world. And yet, now Keir Starmer is folding like a cheap suit. What a disgrace. And I am really sad for the people of England. This is their leader who's so afraid to try to be PC to his enormous Muslim population? Try to be PC to what? Others in the European Union? I mean, this is just unbelievable. They want a nuclear Iran closer to them, clearly. I mean, this is just ridiculous. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And also some interesting news coming out in the Nancy Guthrie case.
Breaking news.
There's a report tonight that Savannah Guthrie, who, of course, is the co-host on the Today Show there on NBC, according to this report, number of sources have said she is probably never coming back to the Today Show after what's happened to her mother and her mother's heartbreaking disappearance. It's unclear if this report is true, but there are a number of sources that are telling Page 6 of the New York Post there is no way Savannah's coming back. Obviously, right now, I can't even imagine her even thinking about it because she has to be obviously so focused on trying to get her mother located and getting her back home. That is the only thing that matters right now. And I can't imagine her thinking about anything whatsoever at this moment. But we'll keep you posted. Interesting to see. And, of course, multiple reports coming out now that there were these Google searches where right before the disappearance, somebody was going online looking up Savannah Guthrie's salary, which is a nice hefty salary, needless to say, if you're co-host on the Today Show. And also, soon before that, looking up Nancy Guthrie's address. So if they can track who was doing those searches, maybe it's more than coincidence. And the sheriff there is saying that he believes it was a targeted kidnapping, not a robbery gone wrong. And by the way, President Trump has also been asked today. Here he is, huge day, big news in the world. And he's on Air Force One. And people were asking him all about Iran, also about aliens and UFOs. We'll get to that later on in the show because there were some wild developments there. And there's a big development on that tonight. And also President Trump was asked about the Nancy Guthrie case. You can tell that he is following this case closely. Listen to what he said.
To Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy.
Boy, it's so crazy. It's so bad. I didn't like when they were talking about going after the pacemaker and before they even started going after it, they're coming and reporting it. So if in fact they could do it that way, the person would say, well, I'm not going to let that happen, right? So bad things would happen if he not going to let that happen. I can't imagine why they would have done that. And just in terms of strategy, just one little piece, I don't know. But we have to start reporting on other subjects or also see what happens. It's a very sad situation.
Sir, and with Iran, if the whole point of...
I have to take off. I'll come back.
All right, thanks.
All right?
Yeah, thanks.
Or do I have to? Maybe I don't have to. Have a good day. Thank you.
I think you have to.
Sit down.
All right.
And all right, here is an Arizona reporter, Brianna Whitney. She is also talking about the case. And this was interesting because she did an interview with Chris Nanos, that is the Pima County, Arizona sheriff. And this was kind of interesting information. Listen to this report.
Well, is the sheriff any closer to determining if the person we see in that video surveillance even acted alone?
I mean, he went on the record today and said that they are looking into the possibility that there was an accomplice. That's still a possibility. To be honest, it feels like anything's a possibility at this point. It feels like we're still going with DNA. We're waiting for those results to come back in. We're hopeful that there will be new surveillance video and pictures. We know they're trying to go through the other cameras that were on Nancy Guthrie's property. We now know they're also testing biological evidence that was found in the home as well. So could there be an accomplice? It sounds like the sheriff says that's still a possibility, but there's so many parts of this investigation that are outstanding. It seems like we need some of those results back to make more of a concrete answer on that. Obviously, we hope to find that soon as we near 3 weeks of her gone, which is honestly shocking to say.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thought we would be here 3 weeks later. They don't know if she's in the United States, if she's out of the United States. They don't know if there's accomplices, if there's not accomplices. They seem like they are all over the place. And that is really troubling. 3 weeks. And also it came out tonight that there are 400 investigators that are on this case. That's an enormous amount. 400 investigators. That's local and federal. That's a lot of investigators. And yet still, as far as it looks, I'm praying for a big break. But right now, it looks like it is quite a distant sight. And that is really, really sad. Let's go to Philip in Pennsylvania, line 5. Go ahead, Philip. Your thoughts tonight here on the Rita Cosby Show.
Thank you, Rita. My thoughts are, what is England to do? They left these people from the Middle East in their country. They make up 1/6 of the population now. They're a threat from within. And
by the way, Phil, you hit it on the head. You are correct. Grow a spine. How about that?
That's right. And Poland and Hungary and all of East Europe that won't let them in are right.
Yeah, thank you. You are absolutely correct. Poland has checked, especially my father's Polish. You probably know, yes. And Poland very much, probably more than any other country. They and Hungary, I would say, have been so careful at vetting and checking and saying, look, we do not want to lose our great heritage, our great customs, our great values. We want to make sure we are protected. Poland's had obviously a very difficult history with what happened with Germany and Russia through the years.
And what also happened when they were invaded by the Muslims.
Yes.
500 years ago.
Yeah, and guess who stopped them? You probably know, Jan Sobieski.
Jan Sobieski.
Yep, Sobieski.
He came and saved Vienna.
Yep.
And this is why all of East Europe's got their brains right, but not Western Europe. They're brain dead.
By the way, Philip, I love you. How do you know so much about Polish history, which I love and hold dear? How did you get so engrossed? I love it.
I have read an awful lot. My mother's family was from Galicia, and which is in southeastern Poland.
Yep.
And my father's family, they were from what is now Romania, but it was all Austria-Hungary then. And we were taught from my grandparents and great-grandparents just how bad this situation is, and it's coming home to roost now.
Yeah, which, boy, if that is not a powerful message, you don't want history to repeat itself.
And it's here and now, Rita.
I know. So, Phil, what's your message to Americans listening? What do you think should happen vis-a-vis Iran?
What should happen is we should absolutely economically strangle them to death, and whatever else we have to do, we have to do. And we'll find out who our real friends are.
Well, we know for sure Keir Starmer is a wimp. That we do know. Phil, you are terrific. You got to call back again. I love your fire. I love your patriotism. And I love just your appreciation of values. and what makes America and the world great. And you brought up my father's beloved Poland, so you know I love that. Phil, thank you very, very much. Everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. Phil says strangle Iran economically. President Trump clearly is trying to do that. And now the military hammer may be coming soon. Is that the right move, guys? 1-800-848-9222. You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is The Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up in the next hour, wait till you hear what President Trump had to say today about UFOs. Some new news tonight. This is the buzz everybody's talking about. And Zoran Mondani adds some people, let's just say they're anti-Semitic. Wait till you hear who he's added to his staff. The list gets worse and worse and worse as he is planning on making New Yorkers pay big bucks so maybe the migrants can have some more nice 5-star hotel food. Doesn't that sound fair? 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Sam in the Bronx on line 5. Go ahead, Sam, your thoughts tonight.
Hey, Rita, first-time caller. Love your show. I always watch you on TV. But
thank you, Sam. Thanks so much. I'm so glad you're tuning in and watching. Thank you.
Oh, man, I had to get this off my chest because if I was President Donald Trump, I'll be making a phone call to Prince Charles and tell him, listen, my friend, get off your high horse, take a walk over to Parliament and find out what the hell's going on. Because if Margaret Thatcher was still around, she'll be saying, no problem. You can land, you can fly, you can park, but nobody says no to the United States of America. We have VIP. We helped you in World War I, World War II. I don't think so. If we got to land here or park here or whatever, we go. We have access. We would do the same thing if Great Britain say, hey, listen, can we park our ship at 42nd Street in the Hudson River? Yeah, sure, no problem. We don't say no to our allies.
I agree. Sam, you bring up a great point. I mean, you look at history. Margaret Thatcher, and I never had the honor to meet her. I would have loved to have met her. But Margaret Thatcher, and I have friends who knew her quite well, who worked with her, young aides to her. And she would say, I'm going with you. Not only would she say, hey, use all our air bases, she would say, how many more do you need? We're flying with you.
Oh,
I mean, you think
right,
about that. That's why it is so shocking. Now, here's the problem, though, and you know this, Sam, that King Charles, he's a little busy these days. In fact, his brother, the former Prince Andrew, has now been, arrested for giving state secrets to Jeffrey Epstein, of all things.
Welcome to Wally World.
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly. But the problem is, in England, he doesn't really have necessarily control. I mean, I'm sure he has a lot of clout with Keir Starmer, but they kind of try to separate pomp and circumstance and tradition from Keir Starmer, who really is the guy who makes the decisions about the military and all that.
I'm sure it could be done. Something's got to be done. But I'm saying, all I want to find out if we have a plan B. If we go into Iran, do we put in the Shah of Iran, his grandson, whatever he is? But we don't want it to turn this into another Iraq. We don't want to have ISIS come along and say, "Hey, the place is empty. Let's come on in."
Well, that's exactly the point. And I think it looks like the Shah's son is trying to position himself and has a big following there. There are other resistance groups, too, that are there.
I'll let you go. Have a blessed New Year, and God bless you, and thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, Sam, and I'm glad you're watching and tuning in. I love it. I love it. I love it. But you know what? To answer your question, I'm not sure if they have a clear plan. And that's a part of it, too. Like we saw with, Venezuela, they went in and they decided that it was easier in that case to keep Delcy Rodriguez, at least in for now. That's the number 2 who was under Maduro. It was not a perfect choice. She seems to be complying, but they didn't want to have destabilization fully when they pulled Maduro. So Yeah, this is going to be interesting. And the question here, will they take out the regime? Will there maybe be some self-appointed leader that steps up? Will the people vote?
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.